Listen, every now and then I have to remind myself of how far we've come to be able to have conversations about UFO. Do you know how huge that is? How far we've come? Used to be, bro, you were an outcast. Nobody wanted to be around you. You were deemed crazy. All of that type of stuff still is a little bit. Some people label us as that, but it is what it is at this point. They're more crazier than we are for not entertaining it or somewhat believing it. It's like, I just have to reflect on that sometimes. But anyway, man, let's get to the craziness. So, y'all know how this goes. Question everything. You should. And remember, this is for entertainment purposes only. Let's get to it.
All right, so I just got done watching the interview with Ross Cuthbert and the guy who was the helicopter pilot. And that is crazy. And if you guys haven't seen it, there's this guy who is a Navy SEAL. He's some kind of Navy SEAL, some kind of Special Forces pilot. Claims that while he was in there, they tasked him to go and pick up this egg thing. And the egg, like, had hieroglyphics on it, and it didn't, like, it, I don't know. It was crazy. There's pictures of it. I'm sure you could just Google, like, UAP egg thing or whatever. But dude, it's crazy. And then here's the crazy part. I mean, you know, we hear these stories all the time now, and it's normal. This is the crazy part. He said he felt like he connected with this thing. He also claimed that he said that it had a feminine energy, which I thought was very, very interesting. He said that he did not feel like it was threatening to him in any way, shape, or form. He said that he said that he had the feeling that it felt sorry for us. Now, I don't know, you know, exactly what that means, but yeah, this is an insane interview, you know, and that leads me to my next point. Like, sorry, my hair's crazy. That leads me to my next point. Like, I don't think there's any accidents. Like, do you guys think that this is just something that the government's allowing to get out? That they're like, you're only hearing about this because we're allowing you to hear about it? Or, you know, I've also heard the other theory where people...
I'm not going to stop being cautious. I'm going to always remain cautious and skeptical of everything. So while I do believe and get excited and all that type of stuff like that, I'm still going to be cautious because you never know. You know, we could be playing right in the palm of their hands. You never know. So you have to remain somewhat skeptical.
People say, well, something big's coming. There's some alien mothership headed, and, you know, they're just all trying to trickle this stuff in and prepare us. I've heard that theory. Also heard the theory that, you know, this is all just a big distraction, and, you know, while you're looking this way, we're setting off a bomb this way. So, I don't know. What are your thoughts? I mean, this egg thing is insane. I saw the photos of it, saw the hieroglyphics. I just think all this stuff is really interesting, and it's starting to heat up. I really don't have any way I lean either way. I've made a video before on what I think there may be an aspect to this, and you can go back and look at this. But what are your thoughts on the egg? And if you haven't, go back and watch that video and then come back here.
I find myself asking the question I wonder if he knew that was going to be part of his job description when he signed up. Like, being a part of a UFO retrieval program, like, it's all good in theory until you have to go do it. And then something taps into your subconscious and you become emotional and you're feeling things on your way back of bringing this thing back. That's a game changer.
Y'all know what would be so cool? Like, really cool. Let me tell you. Just like in Lahaina, Hawaii, how all that real estate just up and burned, it would be really, really, really cool if they turned half of Los Angeles into a smart city and then made a couple of the surrounding areas 15-minute cities. Don't nobody really own nothing. There's no house insurance. That's all they got to do is declare it uninhabitable. And the city comes in and takes it. And then they wait a little while and they sell it to the developers. It wasn't good enough for you to live there. but it's good enough for us to sell to the developers. Yeah, man, a smart city. Right there in the middle of Los Angeles. Boy, y'all gonna have a good time. Y'all gonna have a good time. Y'all know what would be so cool?
Think about the psychological behind the name Smart City. What are you saying by naming it that? I don't know why. That just popped into my brain. But psychologically, think about what that could do to people. Why can't we? So can we live it? Like, it's going to be so many different questions. And just the name in itself, Smart City, I don't know why, but I don't know. I might have to think about that a little more because I kind of feel some type of way about you naming it a smart city. What are you trying to imply there? Interesting. I don't know.
So health agencies in the U.S. are pausing all communications just as an outbreak of bird flu hits Georgia. And the state of California has also declared an emergency on bird flu. Oh, and Trump announced that the U.S. is withdrawing from the WHO. You have a right to be worried about this, especially because we lived through Trump's botched pandemic handling. This is basically the sequel to, if we stopped testing, we'd have fewer cases. But I do have to point out that Biden's health agencies were also cooking the books. They were just a little more subtle about it, but they definitely didn't have our health in mind. They chose corporate interests over public health, and the public kind of just went along with it. Biden ushered this in, but he's no longer president. So I will be pushing back against the inevitable terrible decisions that Trump makes in regards to public health, and I hope you join me. In fact, the first thing you can do right now is wear a high-quality respirator. Because COVID and bird flu are still threats to us all, they're both airborne, and our leaders are fine with us being sick as long as we keep working. Let's mask up and push back against ableist politicians like Trump.
Cockadoodle had 3,000 of these hens just 1 week ago, and now none of them are left. It's a devastating blow to the farm that will now have to operate in a different way over the next 150 days. This farm in Madison is now under quarantine with the first known outbreak of bird flu in Illinois this year. The owners at Cockadoodle noticed something was wrong when 30 of their hens suddenly died last week.
It was right when the temperature started changing. So we're like, oh, maybe it's environmental or, And the next day, hundreds were gone. And we're like, this is something.
In a matter of days, the rest of the 3,000 hens got sick and died as well, with a vet and the USDA confirming it was bird flu. Because of the outbreak, the farm cannot produce any eggs for 150 days, meaning the Thomas family is losing thousands of dollars each week. The family can still keep business going in other ways with this online farmers market. That's where they sell locally produced and chemical-free meats, greens, and dairy.
The best thing that people can do to support us right now is just, if you're in our delivery area, jump online, add some things to your cart. It's just the impact that has on us and all the other farmers is unreal.
The owners say wild birds have recently been coming near the chicken feed, despite their...
That's what I was sitting here wondering. I was like, okay, how are they? Because normally you see these farms in there kind of isolated. So I'm like, how are they coming in contact and getting this flu? Like, what's happening? But right then when he just said it, I was like, okay, all right, wild birds coming in and other things, amongst other things.
Efforts to scare them away, they think this was likely what started the outbreak. The community now rallying around them by raising money for the farm and shopping on its website.
Feeling like the flood of emotions from the support of the community and the kind words and the messages that we're getting from people have just been lifting us up.
So the owners here are now adjusting to all the requirements under this quarantine, having to sanitize and clear out many things on this property. They're hoping the quarantine will be lifted by June.
Format right now. And it looks like it might shift here to a drone here, so think it's going to swoop down 2nd Street. Oh, this is really orby. Nope, okay, we're in drone format now. Okay, now we're fully drone. Okay, now we are in big drone. You can see we have morphed into big drone now. And now this guy will go down 2nd Street. Or go down Belmont Shores and do whatever it does and look at everything, or whatever it's doing. So you see, this is the same video that I got the other night, last night. This drone is doing the same thing. It's huge. It's cruising. It's cruising low, the head's tilted forward, so you know that it's not a plane. Planes don't tilt their heads forward like that. So again, this is going down the same kind of path that the other drone last night took. It looks so much like a plane, but you guys just saw it for your own eyes that it was in an orb format just a minute ago. And now it is a huge, huge plane, drone thing. It's as low as the house rooftops now. There it is. It's now out of my eyesight. It's gone.
Wow, that's crazy. She got more information than the officials we look to for the answers. She done studied them. She know their patterns, their movements. She's able to give you more information than our government. That's insane.
1, 2, 3. That's not those are not airplanes.
And like I said, I'm recording this literally.
I have a theory for the universe and I need you to listen up. So let's say this is the beginning of our life and this is the end of our life. When you're thinking about reincarnation, it's as if you go through your entire life and then at some part you just start over and then you continue on to the next life, right? But we think in linear terms as human. What if it's not actually linear? What if this life is happening from start to finish and then your other life is happening from start to finish and your other life is happening from start to finish and they're all happening at the same time? And the core of all of those experiences make up the entirety of who you are, not only on a human level, but your soul. But what if your soul is just a circle that is existing, possibly a galaxy that is just existing, and all of these lives happening up at the same time make you who you are? So instead of going from this life and then back out here to this life and back out here, what if it all just is? And this is the isness of life. I think I figured it out. But one thing that I've also thought about, the fact that like we have the Apple Cloud and it has every single person's videos, their photos, all of their experiences on their phone, right? Even if you do not go into the Apple Cloud and push play on a video, the entire 10 seconds of that video exists. That moment in time exist. So you get to choose what video to watch. Even if you think about Spotify, every song is playing at the same time on Spotify, but it's not until you push play that a song starts playing for you. But if you don't push play, that song still exists. That song still makes sound. Every single second and point in that sound exists and is playing in that moment. It's insane. I feel like I've cracked some type of code. This book actually started all of my questions for this. I swear to God, the Project 369, it goes over a lot of sacred geometry and like really wakes you up. There's more than we know. You know, I feel insane explaining these concepts sometimes, especially to like just my normal friends. So it's crazy to be here on the internet explaining this. I have a theory for the universe.
See, this is why I started out the video saying what I'm saying. Because she, like back in the day, they would probably try to lock her up for this. They would deem her as crazy and try to just cast her away. But today, not so much. More so, more people are now being intrigued by that book who know nothing about it and go out and get it and read it and start trying to unlock their brain and different things or tap into something or see what they come up with as well. Like, this is exactly what I was saying.
Lastly, sir, we have an executive order ordering the declassification of files relating to the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
That's a big one, huh? A lot of people are waiting for this for years, for decades. And everything will be revealed. Okay? Give that to RFK Jr.
Yes, sir.
Okay? Okay, thank you very much.
What is the biggest, most widely known conspiracy theory that everyone has talked about at one point or another that is most likely to be true and be a real something to talk about? Well, in my opinion, it's the JFK assassination. I have studied it and I've been somewhat infatuated with it since I was in high school. And I'm here to say there is too much pointing toward the fact that there were insiders wanting him gone from this country to make me think that just some random rogue guy is the one that killed him by himself. Because during the time that JFK was president, the CIA was getting a lot of power. They were doing a lot of things that he wasn't okay with. And he was on the verge of removing the head of the CIA and possibly disbanding it altogether. And when it got to the point where he was right on the verge of doing it, he was assassinated. We've all heard about the potential grassy knoll shooter and all that, but just think about it. What is...
Think back to then and think where we are now. And think about all the theories and conspiracies you've heard about what the CIA is involved in, them going rogue, doing their own thing, the left hand not knowing what the right hand is doing. And think back to him of trying to prevent this from happening, prevent us from getting to possibly, potentially, allegedly where we are now. Just think about that.
It's also reported today in the papers that Saudi Arabia will be investing at least $600 billion in America, but I'll be asking the Crown Prince, who's a fantastic guy, to round it out to around $1 trillion. I think they'll do that because we've been very good to them.
This is a great question. Thank you for asking. Let's talk about it. I truly wish it was as easy as signing a piece of paper and lowering gas prices, but it's not. Let's talk about that. So, there was one executive order, and that was the 12th, to be signed on the 20th, and that was called Emergency Price Relief. The full name is Delivering Emergency Price Relief for American Families in Defeating the Cost of Living Crisis. And all this does is basically just say to the heads of departments to look into emergency price relief and what they can do to lower prices. Now, this executive order is called Unleashing American Energy. So this instructs the executive branch to encourage energy exploration and production on federal lands and waterways, and also outer continental shelf. Now, you can also see in Section 4 revocation of many executive orders pertaining to environmental crisis. So this is a graphic from October 30th, 2024. You can see over here we're reaching about 4.5 million barrels a day from Canada alone. If on February 1st there is a 25% tariff imposed on Canada through all imports, gas prices will not go down. Our current production per day of oil is 13.4 million barrels, and our usage is over 20 million barrels, just over 20 million. So this is a graphic from 2023. Market share in our energy production. with nuclear at 18.6 and renewable energy sources at 21.4 of the total. But to answer the original question, no.
Y'all, I'm pissed. Anybody who owns a chicken or anything like that, come to the front. Why the did I just have to pay $9 for some eggs? Aldi brown eggs are $9. They usually like $4. There's an egg shortage. Walmart, Costco, everywhere. I don't know if it's Arizona or California too. I don't know what y'all going through. I need a chicken.
Yo, I'm egg vegan right now. I keep telling y'all, bro. I'm egg vegan, man. And the wings. I live in Georgia. They just told you Georgia's like the biggest when it comes to chicken and poultry and everything like that. Like Georgia. Like, and we got outbreak cases, bro. I'm gonna have to put down wings. And I'm like a wing connoisseur, fam. Like chicken wings is my thing. Like a good 10-piece. Bro, what? I'm fighting my grandmoms for a 10-piece. No, of course, yes. So I don't know what I'm about to do, man, but I gotta leave the chicken alone. It gotta be fish for a little while till we figure this out.
And today, President Donald Trump is making the first trip of his second term, and he's coming to North Carolina. Tamara Scott live in Asheville now with the purpose of this visit. Tamara, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. Yeah, it's an eerie feeling being back here in Asheville this morning. I was here in the first hours and days of when Hurricane Helene hit, and we know there's still so many people who are struggling here in Western North Carolina. So the question many have is, what is President Trump going to do when he arrives here later today, and what's on his agenda for the first trip he's had since his second term started? Now, this won't be the president's first time to Western North Carolina. We know that he made a trip here back in October during his campaign. And while he was here, he visited one of the hardest hit communities, which was in Swannanoa. During that time, he publicly criticized how the Biden administration handled the hurricane aftermath. But today, he's expected to once again tour the area for a couple of hours before he heads back to California. Local officials have warned residents in the area to expect traffic delays between 11 a.m. and 2 o'clock. Now, there's not a lot of information on where exactly the president will be during his tour later today, but Governor Josh Stein's press secretary told us that he's expected to meet the president on the tarmac. Back to you guys.
And today, President Donald Trump.
And hopefully by the time y'all see my video, he'd have already been there. The people would have starting to get more disaster relief, more help, and everything, man. I'm hoping by the time y'all see this, that so much has been done for those people, man. They need it. Shout outs to them.
We are heading towards the Hughes fire from Altadena, and this thing is growing fast. It grew to 500 acres in under an hour's time, and we're just outside of Altadena and already see the smoke in the area of Castaic. Now, everyone should know this area is north of where the Palisades and the Eaton fire burned. This is still in LA County, but the Castaic area is along the I-5 corridor, and the smoke we're hearing stretches across I-5. So there's concern that they may have to shut down I-5 at some point. For now, it looks like, your typical brush fire, wildfire, but this thing is generating a lot of smoke. The flames are super high. As everyone knows, it's been very dry out here, the low humidity, everything's just fuel for this fire to burn and spread quickly.
Man, think about all that wildlife. That's one of the things, man. You know what I mean? Ourselves, we're a priority too, but the animals, bro, that's a whole different ball game as well, man. Like when they start to evaluate everything and the losses that have been attained, it's gonna be astronomical.
Go back to, unfortunately, all of that devastation in California. You have the state's attorney general cracking down on price gouging. California AG Rob Bonta has filed charges against a local real estate agent who allegedly increased the price of a rental by about 38% after the application was sent in. California law prohibits raising the price of an item by more than 10% of its price before a state or a local declaration of emergency. What does one of LA's, if not the top real estate agent, estate developers, make of all of this? Joining us now, I'm so pleased to say, the agency founder and CEO, Mauricio Umansky. Great to have you here. Unfortunately, we wish it were better circumstances. But you are a co-founder of the American Real Estate Association. Can you just talk about some of these allegations and some of the price gouging that you may or may not be hearing about?
Yeah, I'm not fully aware about this particular case regarding the price gouging, but it's terrible. We should not be price gouging. I mean, I can tell you that we had a conversation with all of our agents when this thing started to happen, and we made sure that we were all aware about the laws and the rules that we had to follow, and that price gouging was absolutely not allowed.
Yeah.
We've been educating some of our landlords, some of our owners, to make sure that they understand that that we cannot raise the price by more than 10%. Mm-hmm. And we have a mandate at our company where if anybody does want to do that or wants to price gouge, that we're just not going to work with them.
Yeah. What is the state of real estate right now in LA?
It's extremely difficult. There are 10, 20 applicants for every house right now.
Wow.
And what happens with that is that if there's 10 applicants, 9 get rejected.
Yeah.
And these people are sad. They've lost everything. And then they go to the next house and they put in their application and they get rejected again. And then the next house and then they get rejected again. And it's a really bad position for everybody to be in right now. And it's very sad.
A colleague of yours, a friend of the industry of yours, Jason Oppenheim.
Love him. Good friend.
Good. We had him on a few weeks ago, and he'd made an interesting comment about a lot of deals maybe potentially falling out of escrow because if you want a mortgage, you now have the lender coming to make sure there's a house still standing. You're worried, can you even get insurance? What has some of that deal making been like for you?
Yeah, for the most part, the homes that are already under contract, that are already in escrow, are staying in escrow.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is that there's, a feeling that there's going to be an over demand right now for homes. And so therefore it's like, oh, I've got my house, I'm not taking the risk, I'm staying in, and that exists. However, having said that, there's a moratorium on insurance policies right now. And if you're going to get a mortgage, you have to have fire insurance as part of the mortgage. That's a mandate.
Yes.
Okay. And so for right now, we're going to see probably a little bit of a slowdown unless you have cash, in terms of buying homes. The rental market is bananas. It's, everybody's chasing that. We're seeing clients go to places like Beverly Hills, West Hollywood, Santa Monica, Brentwood, Manhattan Beach, north to Santa Barbara. And a lot of people are leaving the city and are leaving the state, to be honest with you.
What?
That's what I was about to say, man. Some of those bordering states, you got to watch them too. So they're going to be price gouging too because they know people are desperate and they know people are coming. So they're going to have to pay attention to all across the board because it's going to be, and they're going to migrate not just to the bordering states, they're going to come clear across, bro. So you got to watch it all over. People are expecting that and they about to start jacking them rates up if they haven't already.
What is, some of the biggest questions that you're getting from clients right now? Is it an insurance question? Is it a price question? When clients call you and they're so desperate, they've maybe lost their home. What is that question that they come to you with?
Well, the immediate need is housing, okay? Yeah. The immediate need is just, how can you help me put a roof over my head, okay? They're asking us, as agents, we're kind of first responders. We're like right there. Like the victims right now need a place to live, okay? Hotels, condos, apartments. We're trying to find these places and we're working tirelessly to get them into places. The next question starts becoming like, how do I start rebuilding? How do I collect from my insurance company? Can you help me get into a school?
Can we talk about rebuilding? Not to bring up Jason Oppenheim again, but he said, honestly, realistically.
Like pretty much, if you're an agent right now, you're going to have to be pretty much a counselor. That's pretty much what your job has been shifted into. And if you talk to some real estate agents, that was already how they were as it is when you deal with the client. So now it's even more. You're going to be like a counselor at this point.
We're lucky if we rebuild in 5 to 7 years because of all the regulation and the red tape. And I know California is trying to maybe reduce some of that. But what does a realistic rebuilding timeline look like to you?
Well, first, it's cleanup. Let's get this, the dirt ready for cleanup. Let's see what that looks like. We have a lot of questions. Then we've got to deal with the insurance companies, the mortgage companies. A lot of these things have, mortgages. Will there be enough insurance to rebuild the house? But let's just assume all of that happens and works. I think we're looking at a minimum of 12 to 18 months of cleanup, Okay.
Wow.
And then from there, we're looking at another, 2 or 3 years of construction at a minimum. So we're really looking at a 5-year plan to start seeing this, rebuilt.
And quickly, I know it's early days, but do you see in some of the developers that you work with a difference in the material? Do I do concrete instead of wood, especially if I'm worried about the future of California?
Well, first of all, I think that we need to definitely worry about that. And we need to be looking at fire, retention and all of that. But we also need to start looking about preventing future damage to other places. Like, let's learn from this. Let's not let this just be one of those things that happens and then we don't learn and it happens again.
Yeah.
So retrofitting, homes, right? Like right now in California, when you have to retrofit a house every time it sells for earthquake shutoff valves,
right?
Gas shutoff valves. So now let's start figuring out what that next step is so that we're retrofitting a house to avoid this type of disaster.
2 years from now, God, fearing. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Mauricio Mansky, we really, really appreciate your time here with the breaking news. We were short.
Listen, that should be across the board. This should be an eye-opener across the board. You know what I mean? Going forward, if you're about to build a home, how and what type of materials you want to build your home. You know what I mean? To withstand some of the disasters and different things that we keep constantly coming in contact with. So, and when we encounter these things, we want to be able to feel like our home can withstand at least, you can't plan for everything, but some of the things that we faced throughout the years, we could try to at least prepare for. So I don't know if you're building a home or even looking into how to update your existing home. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people aren't just going out and buying. They have a home, so they're not trying to move. But what can you do to update it? That should be some of our conversations going forward, bro. And they should not allow these constructors or contractors be able to build these homes, man, with this just flimsy and this stuff that'll go up in seconds or come down in seconds, crumble, whatever. Like, we need to change what they're allowed to use to build homes, period.